Hello. Today we are going to be learning about graphing systems of inequality. So the method that we're going to be using is solve for y and then use the graphing calculator for the points to graph. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is separate our two inequalities, because when I graph, I want to focus on one at a time, and then the second one winds up overlapping a section of the first. And that's basically the point. That's what we're trying to find. So, first things first, the first inequality is already solved for y, so I'm going to go straight into the graphing calculator, and I'm going to type in the right side of the inequality. I'm going to take a look at the table, and I'm going to identify some points that we need to plot. So you can do this along with me, pause the video whenever you need, and plot the points, okay? So I'm going to choose a few, and I'm going to plot them. So here we go, -2, and then it's going to go downwards this way, okay? And the same thing over here. So, I'm sorry, this is the axis. Okay, so now I'm going to draw a line, except before I do that, I need to identify, is this going to be solid or dashed? This is a less than or equal to inequality symbol, which means it will be a solid line. Okay, so use your ruler. I'm just going to draw freehand here. Make sure you include your arrows. So now I need to determine where to shade. So I'm going to pick the point 0, 0 and see what happens. So if I test 0, 0, I plug in and determine that 0 is not less than or equal to -2, which means it's a false statement. I should not shade the area with 0, 0, which means I should shade the other side right here. Okay? So now I'm going to work on my second inequality. Same thing, I'm already solved for y. So I'm going to go into my graphing calculator and I'm going to type in -5x plus 2, take a look at the table, and find some points for us to graph. So some of the points are -1, 7, 0, 2, 1, -3, and 2, -8. Okay? Now I need to draw a dashed line, because this is just a greater than symbol. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a dashed line right here. Again, use your ruler for better accuracy. And now this is the line that I'm focusing on. Okay, so 0, 0 is a little tough for me to determine which side it's on, or it's a little too close to this dashed line for me. So instead I'm going to pick the point 2, 2. So when I test 2, 2, I plug in 2 for both. Okay, and I wind up with 2 greater than -8. This is a true statement, which means I should shade the side with 2, 2. So I'm going to cover everything that's on the other side. So this is the line that we're talking about, and I'm going to shade it. So if you have your ruler, you can do this as well. And notice I start to overlap right here. Okay, so that's why I use my hand to cover it or a ruler to cover it, because you don't want to stop shading in the area that's already shaded. The point is you have an overlapping section. And we identify that with an S because this represents our solution set to the system of inequalities. Okay, so let's take a look at example number 2. Okay, so example 2 has two inequalities, neither of which are solved for y. So I'm going to separate them so I can focus on graphing one at a time, and I also need to solve both for y. So I'm going to start with the first inequality. I'm going to subtract x from both sides, and I'm left with y is less than -x plus 2. So now I'm going to go back to my graphing calculator, type it in, and determine some points that I need to plot. Okay, so here are some points that are going to work for this boundary line. Now I need to determine if it's going to be solid or dashed. In this case, it is a dashed line. So once again, use your ruler, draw a dashed line through all of these boundary points. Arrows on both ends. Now I have to determine which side to shade. I'm going to pick 0, 0 because that's nice and easy. And I wind up with, is 0 less than 2? This is true, so I wind up shading this side. So the first one is usually easier just because you don't have anything in your way. You don't have to keep track of a separate inequality. But now we have to really focus because we have our second example here. So we're going to subtract 2x from both sides, and I'm left with negative y is less than or equal to negative 2x plus 1. So I need to divide by a negative 1 on both sides, which means my inequality is going to flip, because anytime I divide by a negative, my inequality symbol flips direction. Now I do the division. So this is going to be a positive 2x minus 1. You can also type this in as is into the graphing calculator instead of doing the division. Both are equivalent, so it doesn't make a difference. So here I'm going to do 2x minus 1 and take a look at our points. Once again, here's a variety that you're going to choose from, and we are going to make a solid line in this case. So if I go to graph, here are some points. And we're going to make a solid line, okay? So once we have done this, now we need to determine which side to shade. So this is the line I'm focusing on. I need to pick a side. So I am going to pick the point, let's see, 3, 2, okay? Just because I can, and it's a little bit clearer to see that 3, 2 is on this side. 0, 0 is on the other side, but just to show you some variety, I'm going to pick 3, 2. So 2 greater than or equal to 2 times 3 minus 1, right? This is my x and y when I plug in. Is 2 greater than or equal to 5? Because 2 times 3 is 6 minus 1 is 5. This is false. So no, I do not shade that side. I'm going to cover it, keeping in mind this is the line I'm focused on, and shade. Okay, once again, you'll notice I have a double shaded area, so this represents our solution set. Okay, so we're going to take a look at our final example, example number 3. Okay, so here's example number 3. Once again, we need to separate them so we can identify what is the equivalent inequality, right? Because we're going to have to solve first. So we're going to subtract 4x from both sides. Negative 3y is less than negative 4x plus 9. And then I also have to divide by negative 3. So y is greater than, now you have two choices. Actually do the division, which I'm going to do right now, or leave it as this and put it into the graphing calculator. So you'd be left with 4 over 3x minus 3. Okay, but don't forget we flipped our inequality symbol because I divided by a negative. All right, so here we go. We're going to go into the graphing calculator. I'm going to show you what would happen if you type this in as is. So alpha y equals, enter gets the fraction. Negative 4x plus 9 over negative 3. Take a look at the table. We're only going to plot the points that work, right? We don't need to plot negative 4, negative 25 over 3. That's annoying. Instead, we're going to plot negative 3, negative 7. So to the left, 3, down 7. Then we're going to plot 0, negative 3. And let's see what other ones we have. 3, 1. And that's enough for us. We can go further if you'd like, but we also need to get a move on here. So I'm going to draw a dashed line because this is a greater than symbol. And now I need to determine which one to shade. So this is the axis. Okay, so I'm going to test 0, 0. 0 greater than or equal to 4 over 3 times 0 minus 3. I wind up with 0 greater than negative 3. That is true. So I shade this side right here. Okay. Let's take a look at our last piece to this example. We're going to subtract x from both sides. 3y is greater than negative x plus 6. Divide by 3. Once again, you are going to either leave it as such or actually do the division. So this is going to be negative 1/3 x plus 2, or just leave it as so. Go into the graphing calculator and type it in. So now I'm going to do this bottom example for us. So this is going to be negative 1 over 3x plus 2. Once again, only plot the points that work. So here's one, negative 3, 3. And then we have 0, 2. And so on. Okay. Now I need to determine, is this going to be a dashed or solid line? So this is also dashed. So I'm going to go ahead and draw the dashed line right now, arrows on both sides. And then we have to determine if we have the solution set on the bottom here or right above. I'm going to pick 0, 0 again because that's clearly down here. So 0 greater than -1/3 times 0 plus 2 is 0 greater than 2. No, which means I should not shade this side over here. All right, so instead, I'm actually going to shade the other side. So I'm going to cover down here and shade. Make sure you're shading in a different direction so you can clearly see that this is your solution set because it is a double shaded area. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed watching. If you need to go back and rewatch at any time, by all means, please do so. But I want to say thank you so much for watching A Heidsieck Creation and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.